Welcome to Hack Your Happiness.
Are you a person that can adapt? Are you a person that can get back up? Or are you a person that gets hit and you get knocked out?
Are you a teen or adult looking for more happiness in every day and ways to connect with people in your life?
You've come to the right place. Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Anastasia.
And we're the two teens behind Small Bits of Happiness.
We're interviewing Olympic athletes, entrepreneurs, celebrities, and more.
Throughout all of our episodes, you'll find great conversations, hacks that you can take away and try in your life, inspiration, as well as unique and surprising insights. Today, we are speaking with Marcel Dinkins. Marcel is a former Division I athlete and Army Reserves engineer officer turned Peloton tread instructor and keynote speaker. Marcel joined Peloton as an instructor in 2021, where she quickly became known for her energizing, musically powered classes and inspiring teaching style. During this time, she also began her own online interview series, We Take the Hill, where she shares the life lessons of friends, family, and other fitness industry leaders.
Marcel's mission is to empower others through fitness both in and out of the studio. She extends her influence beyond the Peloton community by co-hosting prominent events and actively participating in one-on-one panel discussions. Her fitness expertise has been featured on InStyle, Self, Today.com, and more. Today, Marcel is joining us to share her hacks on how to be more active daily, dealing with workout guilt, and her experiences at the pinnacle of fitness and media.
Welcome, Marcel.
Thank you so much for that exceptional introduction, Mercedes. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes, of course. We are just so thrilled to be speaking to you today. And you are an iconic athlete and instructor. So take us back to the beginning. How did your journey start? We just want to quickly say, check out our happiness wellness products designed by us for individuals of all ages to help you bring a small bit of happiness to your home with our tangible tips and tools. Check them out in the show notes.
Honestly, my journey into fitness, I would say it started when I was in the 6th grade. I was ridiculously shy. I was just I'm the oldest of 4. And so I've always just been very shy. And one of the teachers, who was actually the basketball coach, asked me to try out for the team. And I didn't know that I would be any good at it. My dad played ball a lot with us, but turns out I had a knack for it. And I have been working out in some capacity ever since. That was my start. It got me out of my shell, and I've enjoyed it. And I've looked forward to moving my body ever since.
Oh, I love that, because moving our body can really make us feel so good. And as well as, like you said, promote, I think, in a sense, relationships and building friendships. When you're on a team where you're working out in a class with others, it really is a great bonding point as well.
Yes, and it helps you explore. I think for me, it helped me explore my limitations. I think that I had set so many limitations on what I couldn't do, and then it allowed me to explore what I could. And then I was like, okay, what if I can do this next thing? What if I can do this next thing? It was my opportunity and my avenue to see how far I could actually go.
It kind of became like a stepping stone so that you realize, so I can do this. Maybe I can try something else, and I can do that as well. And throughout your journey, which has been so amazing and so cool, what do you think your most significant challenge has been, and how did you overcome this?
I think my most significant challenge in my life, I think honestly, I'm reading this book right now. It's called The Mountain Is You. And I think honestly, I've had a lot of difficulties, a lot of setbacks, but I think honestly, my biggest challenge in my life has always been me. I think setting those limitations, not thinking that I deserve to be in this space or this spot, or, it at the beginning, it felt like a chip on my shoulder and I had something to prove, and it helped me chase things. But then eventually it did become like a ceiling for myself. And so I think that in all the ways that I've learned to grow through fitness and through movement, I've learned that I've honestly always been trying to get out of my own way. And I think movement has taught me that. I would say the hardest part was moving to New York. I moved here by myself. I think I had $2,000 to my name. And so I literally just grind and hustled while I was here. And I think that I learned a lot throughout that process of still working out. I had $2,000 to my name and I still had a gym membership. You know what I mean? So I think that that taught me that I can make things happen for myself.
I love that. I love that so much. Just kind of knowing that you can push through no matter what is just such an amazing skill to have. And I feel like oftentimes we do kind of put a ceiling on ourselves, like you said, by having so much pressure on ourselves and expecting so much that it feels like then we're too scared to even start doing something, because what if we don't do as well as we want it to do? So kind of being gentle with ourselves, but still having, you know, expectations and still saying, hey, I want to achieve this, and goals, and being ambitious, but not put too much pressure on yourself that you're too scared to even try.
Yeah, it's a
Exactly.
balance.
That's exactly it, Anastasia. That's exactly it.
It's a balance, right? It's all about like figuring out what your limits are, but the only way you can really do that is by like kind of getting closer to them.
That's the only way you can figure it out, is just by pushing them a little bit further every single time. Once you push yourself a little bit further, and I think that that is also like just an analogy for working out in general as well. It's like the same thing. It's like you want to try something, you want to get better to work out, you have to kind of constantly push the envelope a little bit further, and then that actually changes, like, okay, now you've adapted to that, and now you can go a little bit further. So I think that it actually, I think it's just a synonym for life, really.
Totally. It's like strength happens over time. It's not overnight, or you're not like born with everything, all the knowledge, all the skills you need.
Girl, you better speak like you've been on this earth for like 80 years.
I've learned a lot through these interviews as well. Like, there's so much to learn, and I just think it's like that's one of the biggest learnings I have is like it's okay to learn. Like, it's okay to not have all the answers.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Totally.
Exactly.
And so we were doing some research about your background and learning more about you, and we came across the fact that you've experienced many different industries: fashion, working in the army, and now fitness. So what has been your greatest learning throughout these different transitions?
I think I'm just going to quote you right now. It's okay to learn. You can't do it all at once, but you can learn to do it all. Like, when I started out in fashion, like, I learned from scratch. I learned everything that I was going to learn. When I was in the army, I was an army engineer officer. So I studied fashion in school. I didn't know anything about like engineering, and so I had to like learn that whole process. And then once I got out of the army, or transitioning into like life, I realized, like, I'm doing my first internship in fashion and everything, and I'm like, I actually don't like this. I like to dress well. I like to follow shows. I loved specifically just doing fashion merchandising, where I was like actually like curating what it would look like. I liked that aspect of it, and then I realized I just didn't love fashion. I didn't love the industry, and so then I was always working out again. Like, just I was working out all the time, and I was like, maybe I can learn how to train people. Like, maybe this is something that I could do, and I did. And then after that, I learned more and I learned more, and I was a fitness manager, managing a team, teaching them all the things that I learned. And so I think that that has been my biggest lesson across these career paths, is that you can really learn everything. He wants to enjoy, like, he wants to be included in the conversation. But yeah, but you can just really learn anything.
I love that so much. You've experienced so many different industries, and through that, realizing that you can always learn more, and that you're not limited, that you've entered the fashion industry, you need to spend your whole life in it just because you've spent some time in it, and realizing that, hey, I've learned a lot about this. I learned a lot about myself through this, but I think I also want to experience something else. And I think that because you did that, you also have so much more knowledge about so many different things, because you have so many different tastes of different industries, and you learn more about these things, and you learn more about yourself.
And every skill set builds upon the next. I use everything that I did in fashion at Peloton. Just, getting dresses for my classes, like planning out photo, because we have photo shoots and stuff like that. So I can be an active participant in what I'm doing on set. Like, I can be there because I've had that experience. Having that military experience, being able to really lead people in stressful situations. If the sound goes out, like my very first class, I had I think my playlist started behind. Like, it was just something, like, just a technical thing, but in that situation, I'm not frazzled because I've had to handle situations a lot more stressful in my military like background. So like everything that you learn, there's no wasted learning. So everything you learn and every skill set you learn, it's going to build upon the next, and it's going to contribute to your overall like destination. That's what I realize as well.
Oh, that is amazing,
so
because it's
amazing.
true. I think as teenagers, we're kind of learning about ourselves, and
Yes.
we're taking risks, and we're trying different things out. And sometimes if something doesn't work out, we're like, what a waste of time. Like, why did I follow that? Why did I do that sport for so many years? Why did I pursue this or not pursue that? Like, I wasted so much time. But it's like, no, you learned about yourself. You probably gained some skills, maybe good friendships. Like, there is something to gain. So focus on what you've gained as opposed to what you haven't and what you've lost, because you can't change that.
And I think one of the things that I will add to this, because like what you just said, I just think that you guys, I'm telling you, you're so far ahead of your time. You learn to learn. You learn how you learn. And I think if I could give anyone any advice ever, is to really pay attention to how you acquire information, how you acquire knowledge, because it's going to speed up the process and how you can learn something else in the future. Like I know how I learn because I've gone through this career, and I know how I obtained this information. I know how I learned in the military. Like I know how to train myself to do something else because I've had this opportunity of learning different things. And so I know, like I'm learning French right now. My goal is to become fluent in French. And so I know how I acquired these other skills. So I can sit down and say, thank you for teaching me this, but can you provide the feedback to me in this way? Because I know I'm going to glean a little bit more from it if I receive it this way.
I love that so much, because once you've done so many different things, you can like notice the patterns. Like, okay, well, I learned best when maybe I was able to learn from someone else and then I did it hands-on. Like I was able to apply the knowledge. I learned best that way. Or if I just listened to a lecture, I learned best that way. And so then being able to know yourself like that is honestly, I think it's so amazing, because oftentimes we don't know how we learn, and that can be so difficult to then apply. But if you've done so many different things and just noticing those patterns, and you can even just start doing that like in class, or before a test, you study in 3 different ways and you notice, how do I best remember? And yeah, just trying to find ways that knowledge you learn better. And you touched on this a little bit before, but what was your experience like in fashion, and why did you choose not to continue a career in fashion?
I realized like that I liked fashion, but I didn't love fashion. I like have a knack. I have a knack for styling things. Like I have an eye for styling things. And I realized like I have a knack for that. And it's good to go down avenues where you find an interest, but like ultimately the thing that you don't ever have to be paid to do is probably going to be like, if I could do it without ever having to be like, I will work out religiously. I will try to help people religiously. I try to teach people religiously. These are things that like no one would ever have to pay me to do. COVID came and everything was shut down. I was still in my house, live streaming a workout and working out and training all day, 3 and 4 hours a day. And so I realized with fashion, that was not my, you know what I mean? That was not necessarily my thing. I honestly would get upset. I would just be so stressed that I would just get off of work and just go work out and just be in the gym and like, and so I realized it's just like, I have a knack for this and I have an interest, but every interest, every hobby doesn't need to, you know what I mean, become a career. That's what I realized. Like I love certain things about it and I still incorporate it, but it wasn't my passion. It wasn't my like love.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important to remember, is like, you can have different interests and you don't have to
Exactly.
like love them all the same, and you don't have to pursue them all the same. Like maybe you work on fashion from time to time, or like styling from time to time, but
Or you incorporate it
exercising
into your
exactly,
job.
but
Yeah.
exercise.
I incorporated my life. Yeah, it's like now it's like a strong suit that I have. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I have this. I know that I can do this. I use it with like decorating my apartment. Like I use it in so many different ways. Like it's necessary, and I try to develop the skill a bit more, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I want to make a life, like a living from it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's okay to
So
change and pivot and like realize that you don't have to like be all in. Like you don't have to be all in on every interest. It's okay to have interests that you're less committed to and then have interests that you're more committed to and like balance it out. It's okay to like take a step back but still pursue it like part-time, and I think that's an important boundary to set.
Exactly.
And so in terms of exercise that you love so much, Anastasia and I are on the same page. We love to exercise, especially through the Peloton. We do all like the strengths and the biking and the running. We love it. But it also brings us happiness because it releases those endorphins, those feel-good hormones, and it relieves stress and clears your mind. So what would you say are your top 3 tips for teenagers to be more active daily and to stay motivated in moving their bodies?
find things that you love and things that you enjoy. I mean, I don't think that you will like, I think for me, exercise wasn't exercise when I first started. You know what I mean? It was something that I played sports, or I did start working out. Like I really got in my best shape, started working out in my bedroom, listening to music that I liked. So I think finding ways to not necessarily make it work, but make it fun, whether that's music, whether that's with a friend group, whether that's an activity as opposed to just like exercise. Because I think that sometimes when we feel like we're doing something awkwardly, or we feel like we might look awkward doing it, it makes it a little harder to try. So I think just not making it pressure, like there's no pressure. Just, do something that you enjoy doing it and make sure that you do it for like 30 minutes. And then I think just starting. I think that that's like the biggest thing is like, I feel like especially now when there's so much access to everything, there's information everywhere. Even as a trainer, I noticed that there's like information overload where we're looking at like how to program the best program ever, how to make the best workout ever, as opposed to just like making a workout. If you look back at like Michael Jordan's old workouts, I look at them and they're the most rudimentary workouts I've ever seen in my entire life. But he was the best athlete of his time because it was just getting it done. And so I think that like just finding a way to just start and not feeling this pressure to have it look like everyone else's workout. You might not ever be a Pilates princess. You might not ever like want to lift weights. You might not ever become a runner. And there's no wrong thing about that. Just find what you like, music you like, friends you like, a community you like, and just go.
I love that so much. It can be so hard to work out and be motivated to do something if you're doing it and you're just like, I really just don't want to be doing this right now. And then it's just 10 times harder to get yourself going and everything. It's just so difficult, and then you also just don't like it. And I think working out oftentimes can be so hard to do for some people because of that. But as soon as you kind of find a part of working out that you really like for me, I love running and I love doing Pilates. And by doing that, I genuinely enjoy working out. I look forward to it every day. But if you don't have that, then it can be so much harder to get started and you just don't really want to do it.
If you're dreading it, it might not be the right type of activity, and like try something different.
Exactly. And there's parkour. Like you can do whatever, you can literally do whatever you want. And I think that we do get this, and I think it's a lot because we're all dialed in and all connected all the time. So we're always getting these images of what this person is doing, and we want to aspire to this type of person, right? And everyone's doing something different, and there is something out there that you're actually really going to enjoy, and give yourself permission to be an individual. Like give yourself permission to be an individual. You do not have to do what everyone else is doing. You can have an individual body, you can have an individual taste, you can have individual joy. Allow yourself to be joyful. And if you are doing something that gives someone else joy and you are miserable at it, allow that to be theirs and go find your own thing. Like just go find your own thing. And I think that that's a hard thing for just us, and as a culture right now in general. I think that it's hard to like own, that we could have our own individual thing.
I think that's an incredible third tip because it's so true. Like, when you are doing things for other people, it will never fulfill you to the same extent that doing something for yourself is. And it's not sustainable. Like, especially with exercise, if you're trying to build it into a routine and build it into a part of your lifestyle, if you don't enjoy it, you're going to find excuses not to do it. You're going to find like other things to do instead. You're going to procrastinate, you're going to dread it, and it's not going to bring you that happiness when it really can bring you happiness.
Yeah, and many teens love being active, but oftentimes we can get sick, injured, or we're on a trip and we're not able to move as much. But do you ever feel guilty for missing a workout? And if so, how do you manage these feelings?
I actually recently tore my ACL, and that was the longest I've ever been out of like activity ever. So I was out a total of 7 months without teaching. I made concessions for myself. Like the first, so this is my trick that I do to myself. Cause there are ebbs and flows. I've been working out my entire life, but there are ebbs and flows where I'm more motivated to work out and not as motivated to work out. Again, like I said, like it'll be the thing that I do that no one ever has to pay me to do. So I'll always do it. But there are pivot points of like higher activity and less activity. Um, and I would say for the first couple of weeks, this is the first time where I just felt miserable. I felt like, oh my God, like I can't do anything. Like this sucks. Woe is me. And I allowed myself to feel those things. Okay. I did not guilt myself. I did not pressure myself. But what I did do is that like, I just walk into the gym and I just say like, even if I walk around today, like that was something, if I do a bicep, like I gave myself bare minimum. I allowed myself to do the least amount possible. And then I said, well, at least you did that. And then like tomorrow, like maybe you'll do a push up. And you have to give yourself grace and understand that like there are going to be ebbs and flows. And if you can do even, even if you could do this much during an ebb, like you're going to kill it during the flow. Like that's how I think of it. I'm like, if you could just like, if you can pump out this much and then when the flow comes, I kill it, you know, but you have to show up doing that ebb point. And even if it's just like this much, like, even if it's the bare minimum, like walking in the gym, I was like, that's all I had today. Like I literally just walked around and I stretched. I just stretched. But you know what? That is a form of activity. That's one of that's one of the, points on that triangle of activity. So I was like, okay, that's what I'm doing today. And, and I allow myself to feel it, and I don't guilt myself for feeling it. I just say it sucks today. And sometimes you have sucky days and you still breathe. You breathe every day. You don't take it, you don't take off a day from breathing because you had like a cold, right? Like if you stopped, right? Like if you stopped, it's over. So it's okay to like have a crappy day, have a crappy mood, not be able to do everything that you want to do, and still bless yourself, invest in yourself with some form of activity, whether it's a stretch, a walk, or just something simple as that.
Oh, I love that so much because it's true. Like, if you're injured, if you're sick, if you are away and you can't exercise, you can't go to the gym, you can't play basketball or soccer or tennis, we can feel guilty and we can be like, oh, I can't believe I'm like losing progress or I'm not keeping up with my routine. But when you realize like this is kind of an ebb and it's going to get back to that flow, like I can't control the fact that I'm sick or injured or away. And it's okay. It's part of life. Like you still have to be able to live your life.
It's life. Yeah. That's life. There's a bigger picture. There's like, on that big graph, like you have to zoom out. Like you have to really zoom out. This is one singular moment on this graph where you're like going through it. But if you look at the big picture, there's these peaks and valleys this whole time. And you're just right now in one of those valleys. And like, if you just like let go because you're feeling the pressure of this valley, like you're missing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is like your life will ebb and flow.
Totally. And it's okay. And I feel like there's ebbs and flows in every part of life.
Yes.
So when it comes to fitness, like realizing, I'm going to is there a slight type of exercise, like a stretch or a meditation, something to get moving a little bit is great.
And the beauty of exercise is that you don't need to be doing like a HIIT cardio workout just for it to count as a workout. Like just going on a walk with your dog can be still a workout because you're moving your body.
Exactly.
Yes.
So Peloton instructors like yourself are kind of like at the pinnacle of fitness and media. So how did you get to this level of success within the fitness industry? And what advice do you have to others who are trying to climb to the top within their industry?
I would say like there are a couple points. So the first point is that like you have to really have this moment of like trying to define what it is that you want, and also being okay if you define what it is that you want and then it's not what you want, and picture something different. So I was, working for a brand. I was a personal trainer at the time, and I wanted to be the top trainer at that brand. Like that was my goal. And I reached being the top trainer in my club and realized that that's not what I want. Like I got there and I was like, and I didn't feel bad about it. I just said, that's not what I want. And I took a pivot, you know? But when I took that pivot, I started to think about what I wanted my new future to look like. I knew that I wanted to do on-camera work. I knew that. I wrote it down. And once I knew that I wanted to do on-camera work, I actually said, like, I want it to have all the facets of what I wanted to do. And I was like, I want to have some way to incorporate fashion. I want to have some way to incorporate modeling and all these things because I used to do all those things. I want to be able to engage with people and kind of like, I honestly said, like, I want to be a character. I want to be able to engage with people. And once I did define those things, I started looking around at different careers or different like fitness avenues that had that. And for me, Peloton was that. And I was like, oh, this place like actually encompasses all of that. And so I wrote it on my vision board, and I did start taking steps. I was proactive about taking steps in the direction that I thought would get me there and get me in front of them. I became a founding trainer at a different club. Like I got into I moved downtown. Like I took steps. So I think that like sometimes we say like, we write things on a board and we just kind of anticipate it. But I didn't try to like reach out to them. I just started doing all the things that I thought I could acquire as many skills so that I could be, like I wanted to become a Peloton instructor. So I started doing all the things that I thought would make me a Peloton instructor. Honestly, I'm like, I have on camera experience. I can style my fits. Like I can do all of these things. I'm doing voice work. I did acting work. Like I started doing all of those things. And I worked at some of the studios that I knew other instructors had worked at. Like I started, seeking out those things. And then the craziest thing is like, I thought, oh my God, in like a year or so, like maybe they'll scout at the studio, like da da da. And then COVID happened and everything got shut down. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to start streaming my classes. And I started streaming my classes on Instagram. And because I was like, I want on camera work anyway. This is the best like on camera work there is. And some days, honestly, it would be painful because like one person would check in, one singular person, and I was like, and honestly, like I would be like, what if people like check in and see there's only one person here? How embarrassing. But I just would show up and like I would push through it. I would get off and I would cry, whatever, do whatever I needed to do. But I would show up the next day and I continued to show up for myself because I was like, this is the experience that I need to have. Because sometimes in a studio, there could be one person and you need to give that person the best class that you could give them. And craziest thing, a Peloton scout DM'd me. I mind you, I invested like 5K in a business coach as well. But I did all of these things. I did everything that I thought I could do to be ready. And the opportunity presented itself. And I felt like I was ready. Like I really strongly felt I was ready. And when that opportunity presented itself, they were like, do you want to audition? I said, yeah. Yes. Yes. Like, let's do this. And so it just so happened that like who I was at that person, they were looking for that person. So I think that it involves you defining what it is that you want, and then no plan is perfect. You might have to pivot, and once you pivot, again, define what it is you want, and just become that. Become what it is that you want. Like put effort and intentionality behind becoming what it is that you want. It's not going to happen on your timeline, but just start doing those things, because the worst that can happen is you discover that it's not what you want, and the best action possible that can happen is that, you know what, the universe meets you where you are, and yes, you are that. You want this, you want to be this, you have become this. Like, here we go. Like, everything lines up.
That is so amazing. I love how you first said that you need to define what you want to be, because oftentimes we might be like, oh, well, I want to be a Peloton instructor. But what does that mean? Like, what do you have to do? What does that entail? And just having like an understanding of this is what I want to be, why I want to be it, and then kind of creating like a plan, like you said. And also, I love how you said you're able to pivot, because we might say, this is my plan, I'm not going to detour from it, and I'm just going to become a Peloton instructor or become whatever I want to be. But we have to realize that sometimes the plan isn't going to be ABC, and once we realize that, we can kind of change. We can change directions. We can say, okay, this isn't exactly working out. I'm going to try something else because maybe that'll work better. And just being open, and I think looking for opportunities and being open towards them. And like you said, sometimes that means that we have to be in a bit of an uncomfortable situation, which isn't fun at the beginning, but then you realize that if you just keep pushing through it, you're actually going to grow, because that's how you grow, in uncomfortable situations. And sometimes those situations are what make you so successful.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. I think that, like, being able to give that, because when I went through my auditioning process, like, it was so funny. Like, the thing is that there are going to be people on the other side of that camera, but like, you don't know how many people are going to show up, and you don't know who it is. When I went through my audition, I imagined that one person that showed up for me, that was on, I imagined her, and I would tell her, like, when I'm going through the audition, I'm telling jokes, but I'm telling jokes to her. And one of the things that they liked during my audition was that I was funny, and that I just kind of like I rolled with the punches, right? But I did that specifically because I had an opportunity to like joke with her, like, it's just me and you today. Like, I had that opportunity to do that. And had I decided that, like, you know what, this isn't working out, no one's showing up, I would have never had that practice. I would never have been that calm, right? Because I've done this with one person. Now I'm doing this for people that like want to hire me and pay me to do this, right? So like, I just felt like, oh yeah, like, let's go,
That is so brave. I think that you pushed through all those times where maybe you weren't super motivated, or people weren't like giving you the attention, like you weren't having a super popular live stream at some points, like with the one person in the audience.
Yeah.
And how it actually helped you in the long run. Like, sometimes we can see that as a setback. We're like, oh, I suck at this, like I'm not good at XYZ, like I'm not good at my sport, or I'm not good at being on social media, or I'm not a good public speaker. But like, if you keep going and you keep building on your skills, like you said, like everything you can build upon and then take with you into maybe your dream job audition, or your dream interview, or applying to a school, or applying yourself to anything. And so it's funny how things like kind of all add up after a while, and how if you just push through, you can get there. But if you give up, you won't get those skills.
Yeah. I also really enjoy, one thing that like motivates me a lot is that, like, I love looking back. Like, I will, if there's someone that I really love on social media or something, I will go all the way back to the beginning. Like, I want to see where you're, like, I like this glossy version of you that I like right now, but where did you start? Like, what did it actually look like at the very beginning? Because the people that make the most success and most impact, they have like tenure in their career paths. They have like time spent doing what it is that they do, and they've honed it and they've perfected it. And I think that we always see the perfect polished version, and we forget that there was this point of learning. No one jumps into anything without learning something. So I like to go back and like look at the very beginning, because that also makes for a better story. Like, you just woke up one day and just had 10,000 people follow you, and you were just like, where's the where's the excitement in that? Like, where's the lesson in that for me? So I like to go back from the beginning and watch people from the beginning as well. So
Absolutely, because it's so easy to just say, oh, they're so popular, or they're so good at this, they're so strong, they're such a good athlete or writer or performer, but realizing that they've put in so much work, and like, taking a scroll and going down memory lane is a great way to be reminded of that. And sometimes when we're exercising and trying to, whether it's like build upon a skill or get really good in a certain sport so that we can try out for a certain team, we can sometimes get injured. But how would you suggest and how do you prevent injuries?
I think just, doing the stretching, doing the preventative work, like making sure that you're taking care of your body, and not just jumping out there and doing everything all at once. Like I say this all the time, like you can do everything, but you can't do it all at once. Like you can do anything you want, you just can't do it all at once. So being okay with having building blocks is one thing, gradually progressing into things. Like I always get a girlfriend or a new friend, and the first thing that they want to do is like they want to go take my 45-minute class or my 50, like you've inspired me to work out. I'm like, yes, girl, I'm so happy that I inspired you to work out. But like, why did you go run for 50 minutes and you haven't run in like 3 years? Like, like that's probably not the best thing to do. So having this process of just like gradually building upon your success the same way you would do in life, gradually building would be one thing. The next thing again is like being preventative, being proactive, like making sure that you're stretching, making sure that you're doing recovery things, meditating, avenues that may not look like they're part of the whole overall fitness plan for you, but they are. Every single time you recover, you allow yourself this space to grow a little bit further. When you work out, you're breaking down muscle tissue. It's in the recovery process that you actually get stronger. So allowing yourself to do those things as well. And sometimes injuries are unavoidable, but understanding that if and when you are injured, it is okay to step back. You have a long, long life ahead of you, and just allow yourself the grace to be able to say, like, you know what, I am injured right now. I might have to modify. I can't run through shin splints. I can't run through, a TFL injury. Like, I'm okay doing something else and I will get back gradually. I think that those are just three big pillars that I would stress to anyone.
Yeah, I think that definitely I love how you talked about building things up little by little, because we might say, like your friend, you just want to completely jump right into it. You're really excited. But the problem with that is that your body is just not ready for that. And because of that, it probably isn't exactly as safe and you're more likely to be injured. It's like if you're starting something new, instead of saying, I'm going to start at the advanced level, so then that way I just become a pro since the beginning. But you can't really do that because you've never seen someone be successsul, like go from the bottom to just, asking to be the CEO when they walk into the building. Like it kind of works like, you start and you build a little bit. You start from the 10-minute classes and then you can go up to, running for an hour, but your body isn't ready to just completely jump right into it head first. Like you need to prepare and recover. I love how you talked about working out is the breakdown and then recovery is growing.
I think it's funny how that can apply so much to real life too. Like how fitness and real life outside of fitness are so like aligned. It's like working is where you like learn from mistakes, you make mistakes, and recovering is where you can really kind of take a step back, reflect, and realize like taking a break from work or taking a break from your fitness routine is where you can really grow as a person.
Yeah, and you can't have you can't just have one. You can't just have recovery. You can't just have workout. You can't just have work and without any reflective time. Like you need to have both so that you can be successful both physically and in the world and in life.
You guys are so impressive. That's it. That's the answer right there.
Thank you. Yeah. So do you have one piece of advice that you would want to give your teenage self?
You can. Like, I would just say, to my teenage self, like, yeah, you can. Yeah, like for every question that she had or moment that she questioned, I would say you can. Like, and I would encourage that she did. honestly. Like that would be my advice to my teenage self, because I think that like mine was just like a lot of questioning. And I think, like I said, one of the things that I've learned is that you can really learn anything. You may, there might be a limitation on how skilled that you can become. Like you can learn how to play basketball really well, but like if you're like 5'3", chances of you like really killing it are going to be limited. You know what I mean? But you can learn to be extremely skilled with the even within the limitations or you know, like framework that you have. So I would say to my, you know, teenage self, like, yes, you can go out, do it, try everything that you want to try, do all the things that you want to do, and just like trust the process that you can do it. That would be my advice. Like, I think that as women, a lot of times we, you know, we limit ourselves. As girls, we limit ourselves. And I think that that was a lot of my coming up, you know, coming of age. It was just like, well, I can't do that, I can't do this. But, you know, and I would just say, yeah, you can. Just go out there and try it and do it and suck at it and, you know, get better.
I love that so much. You know, I feel like you said, being able to suck at something is actually really important, because if you don't suck at it before, you can't become good at it, because especially if you just stop. You say, "Oh, I tried it, I suck, I'm just not going to." Because that just shows there's room for you to learn, there's room for you to grow. And if you decide that right after that, well, clearly I'm not that good, so I'm just going to give up now, it can be so hard for you to then actually become good at it if you just give up, because sucking at something is just the first step.
Totally.
And
Yeah. And it also becomes a habit. Giving up becomes a habit. It becomes like a habit that you begin to practice. And so I think that like being comfortable, one of my like honestly, I always tell people this and they always laugh at me. One of my favorite things to do, and some of my favorite athletes are actually like skateboarders. And so I love watching skateboarders. And I think that they have the most progressive uh, approach to learning, because in order to learn how to be a good skateboarder or skater, you have to fail at a trick 1,000 times. Like you have to be comfortable falling. Like you go into it knowing that you are going to fall hard. You try to develop ways to fall better, which is life. You try to figure out ways on how to fail better and not fall completely on your face every single time. And you know that if you keep trying at it, you figure you tweak a little bit, you go on this side of the railing, like you do all these different things, and you know that at some point in time I'm going to nail this. Like you have to visualize yourself nailing it in order to nail it. And so like for me, I just like, I think that it's like I'm baffled when people say, oh, they're just slackers. And I'm like, really? Like, because that's not my takeaway. If someone that's willing to try something 1,000 times and fail at it just to be good at it once, that's not a slacker in my brain, in my mind. I'm like, that's a person that's really mission driven, very vision driven. And I think that for me, it's like, you have to be willing, you have to let go of that felt like that fear of failure. And I think that like when I was young, that was like honestly one of my biggest fears. Like feel like I remember saying that, like, I have this fear, like my only fear is like failure. And I'm like, you have to fail a lot in order to be successful. Like my, you know, coming to Peloton, I had to get fired. I got fired from another place before, you know, like you have to fail in order to find your path. So I would say like, yeah, just be okay with, you know, you can just be okay with sucking at it for a while and you'll be just fine.
That's such an important reminder. Like, this is not the be all end all, and like it's okay to have a hard time and like go through it and like get through the hard time. And so
Yeah.
kind of a little bit of a pivot from that topic, one of me and Anastasia's favorite questions is, what brings you a small bit of happiness daily?
One of my favorite things to do, honestly, is like, I just got a dog in January. So, we have been on this little journey together. But I've developed this new routine of like, I get my workout done, or maybe I get work done early in the morning. And then, my dog Six and we go to the park, and then I swing. I just get on the swing for like 5 minutes and I play on one of my favorite songs and I just swing for 5 minutes. And I'm smiling. I'm from ear to ear. Usually I'm singing the song out loud. And I remember the first day it happened where I realized like how happy I was doing it. And I told everybody that whole day, like, I'm having such a great day. Like, because I realized how it really changes my mood, just something so juvenile and jovial. Like, and I wasn't doing it for, and I feel like I'm a New Yorker. I'm always checking my clock. I'm always checking like, like, is this the best use of my time? And I didn't care if it was like, I'm having fun. I'm really genuinely enjoying myself, and I'm happy, and I'm smiling, and I'm swinging on the swing, and my dog is running around, and I see people walking to work, and I'm like, I got 5 minutes. I got 5 minutes. I'm going to allow myself to have these 5 minutes. And like, and I also decided, like, if you don't have 5 minutes to give to yourself, then you're doing something wrong. You need to reevaluate how you're planning your life. So give yourself these 5 minutes. And I do that, like, I do that most mornings. I don't do it like every single morning, but like most mornings, that's what we do.
I love that so much. Just having that 5 minutes of just saying, I'm doing something that genuinely makes me so happy. I don't care what you think of me. It's 5 minutes of what I am able to do, just genuinely whatever I want. And if you don't have that 5 minutes of being able to say, I'm just going to relax a little bit, I'm just going to do something that genuinely makes me happy, just trying to find that, starting to look for that time.
Yeah, try to reevaluate.
Yeah, exactly. And I love going on the swings. The swings are so fun.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's so much fun. I like literally, people say, one guy was like, I thought you were gonna go over. Like, when I say I really enjoy it. I'm kicking. I'm like, I always try to, like, I had to start tying up my dog because as soon as I get at my highest, he would want to run underneath my legs, and I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, I just really thoroughly enjoy it. Like, the fact that I'm like just smiling from ear to ear, and usually whatever song I have on, I'm singing out loud. So it's a sight, but I just really enjoy it.
Aw, you know what? It doesn't matter. Like, if it brings you that much happiness,
Yeah,
like, it is
does not
totally
matter.
worth it. And I think that sometimes, especially as teenagers, we're like, but people are gonna think it's weird, even though it makes me happy. It's like, it doesn't matter because they are living their life, you're living yours.
Yeah.
And
And
if
just
they see
enjoy
how
it.
happy you are, the chances of
It
them
rubs off. I do think happiness rubs off. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it'll inspire them to try
Exactly.
it out.
Yeah.
So-
I do. I do feel like happiness is contagious because I see people doing stuff like, you will see people in New York sometimes just break out and dancing down the street. And when I see someone do that, I smile. Like, I feel my face change, whatever I'm feeling. I do feel that. And so I do allow myself to just have that joy.
I love it.
Yeah. Do you have a motivational quote that you love and remember? And if so, why?
Honestly, my favorite one, everything that I have is always centered around like learning how to fail. Like, honestly, that's all of because I think that, like, again, for me, that was like one of the bigger challenges, like being afraid to not have it perfect, or like not have it in time, or do it a certain way. And so, like, actually one of my favorite quotes is by Mike Tyson. And I say this to people all the time. It's like, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face or punched in the mouth, that he says. Like, everyone has a great plan until you get hit. What do you do once, like, essentially, what do you do once that plan just falls apart? Like, you have to who are you at that point, and so I think that that's the message. Like, who are you at that point? Are you a person that can adapt? Are you a person that can get back up? Or are you a person that gets hit and you get knocked out? Right? So you have to be able to, like, get back up. And then my other, quote is just from myself, honestly. And I learned this lesson from, back in college. I walked onto the cross country team. I wasn't any good, but the coach gave me an opportunity. And I remember one day I was just like miserable, and I was honestly just slacking a lot. Like, I was complaining, and she told me, quit. Very simple, very straight face, very calm, and didn't feel a certain type of way. She said, well, quit. Like, you don't have to be doing this. You don't have to be here. And we were doing like a hill workout, and like, I was like, I'm not quitting. Like, I just wanted to, I just wanted to complain. Like, I'm not quitting. Like, but hill workouts after that point became like one of my favorite workouts. Like, I decided to embody, I'm going to take the hill. And so I say that in my classes, like, we take the hill. We do the hard things. We do the difficult things, because that's what's going to make us, like, building, just resilience to that resistance, that's what's going to make us who we are. What's going to make us strong. So those are like my two quotes, I would say.
That's
I love
fantastic.
that. We'll take the hill.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
building
you take the hill.
resilience to that resistance, that
Mhm.
that one I love as well, because it's so
Yeah.
true. Like, you can approach things from so many different
Yes.
perspectives. So pick like the strong perspective and like push through it.
So, do you have anything exciting coming up that you would like to share with us? Any goals you've got, events happening?
Yes, actually, I am relaunching my interview series and my podcast, We Take the Hill. We have started filming. It's going to come back this summer, at the end of the summer, and I can't wait to drop the episodes. What I do is we literally go outside, we run a hill, we talk about the most challenging things that you've experienced in your life. And I do it so that people can take away life lessons. And a lot of the times, we're all going through the same things. We may call it something different, we may experience it in our own unique way, but for the most part, we're all experiencing the same hardships, and we're all trying to figure out a way to build our own resilience to that resistance in our lives. And so I'm super excited to like relaunch that this summer, late summer, starting to the fall. So people can follow me on Instagram at official Marcel Fit for more announcements about it. But that's like the biggest project that I have coming up right now.
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting, and we'll definitely be on the lookout for that as well.
That sounds amazing.
Fantastic.
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
We'll link your Instagram handle in the show notes so anyone who's looking can easily check it out. And we just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much. Like, you guys were, this is just beautiful. I love like the insight. I love the questions. You both were just so amazing and just so wise beyond your years. I wish I had like a monochrome of this knowledge at my age and when I was your age, but thank you so much. This is so awesome.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, and thank you so much to Marcel for joining us today.
She is so inspiring, and I mean, Marcel's story and her experiences and her advice are all
amazing.
so helpful. Anastasia, what is your biggest takeaway from today?
I think my biggest takeaway was when Marcel said "I can" as kind of like a mantra and a motto, because whenever we're faced with self-doubt or we get our own version of the hill and we can start to climb up it and be like, well, I can't, but instead reassuring ourselves with "I can" and kind of giving ourselves that positive motivation that we need to keep going and achieve the hard things that we want to do.
Totally.
What about you, Mercedes?
My biggest takeaway from Marcel today is that we're always learning, and just let yourself learn. Don't feel bad for not knowing something, and don't feel bad for maybe not fully pursuing something, but rather taking those learnings and just constantly building upon them.
If you enjoyed this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, please leave us a 5-star review from wherever you're listening. It really helps us out and we really appreciate it.
Also, be sure to join our happiness family. It's totally free. We would love to have you, and we'd really appreciate it. And you can join our family by following this podcast on whichever podcast listening platform you're on now.
See you next time!